Now, you may be pleased to hear that in preparation for this programme I formed a letter C like this with a thumb and forefinger and rubbed either side of my breastbone while my other hand was on my navel. This is a guaranteed way to stimulate the brain. Alternatively, you might think that anyone who did that was mildly nuts. But your taxes may be being spent on precisely that sort of stuff. That is a genuine exercise in something called brain gym, which is being taught in primary schools across the land and is endorsed by the Education Department. Tomorrow, the campaign group Sense About Science will launch a campaign against the practice. The BBC's science correspondent, Pallav Ghosh, reports.
Please, could you stand in a space with your feet planted firmly on the ground?
If you want to boost your brain power, then try this. A series of movements that are supposed to be a workout for the mind. Welcome to the Brain Gym. The children at Akersfield Primary School are starting their school day with a little light exercise. Invented in California, the Brain Gym technique claims to enhance mental performance.
Please, may we do my favourite now?
Head teacher Sue Smith is a Brain Gym believer.
It will certainly help me with my thinking today.
She uses it throughout the school day. She's found it calms the pupils and believes it makes their minds more receptive to the lessons ahead.
I've been teaching now for 37 years, and I've always felt, well, I'm so pleased that Brain Gym has come into my life now at the time that it has done, and yet equally, if I'd have had it 37 years ago, it would have made a tremendous difference then. We have a calm school, we have a joyful school, we have an inclusive school.
Hear those feet on the floor?
So I just want to teach you an exercise called Lazy Eights. Now, Lazy Eights is a really...
Sue's employed Louise Cook, who's a qualified Brain Gym instructor, as a consultant. It's her job to teach the school's teachers.
And they notice that, you know, their handwriting is faster, it's smoother, they don't have to think as much.
It is interesting that you say that, because when Mrs Smith came last year to do some lazy alphabet 8s with my class, it was some of the best handwriting that I'd actually seen from that class, and particularly from the boys as well, that it much improved. So I did find it made a difference.
Louise believes that learning difficulties can be related to stresses in the body's posture. She uses movement to ease those stresses, and that, she says, unlocks the learning problems.
There's an exercise we do called energy yawn, where you rub, you know, the cheek muscles, and you kind of like relax the tension in the jaw and the cheek. If we release the tension in the jaw, that we're releasing problems with the temporal mandibular joint, and underneath the temporal mandibular joint, 5 of the cranial nerves kind of come out and they feed forward into the face, so they improve languaging, but they also feed down into the shoulders and the hips to improve balance.
Really high stretches.
The teachers here find Brain Gym particularly useful for helping children with special educational needs, such as Sam Corner.
Sam's got quite a few difficulties, both physically and learning difficulties, and since he's been at school, they do it every morning. It's helped him to focus during his lessons, to remain calm. It's helped him with his spatial awareness, with his reading, with his writing, a whole numerous aspects really of his development.
And what's Sam had to say about Brain Gym?
Oh, he loves it. He does it every morning.
Fantastic! Fantastic! Well done!
So how does it all work? Well, according to the teacher's manual, the suggested movements can have a direct effect on the brain. The exercises, it says, can rewire the neural pathways, increase blood flow to the frontal lobes. It can even clear blockages. And all of this, supposedly, can make the children use their brain to their full potential. The Brain Gym manual contains 26 exercises that are meant to realign the mind and body. Here are some of them. Pressing the brain buttons. These are located in the soft tissue under the clavicle to the left and right of the sternum. According to the manual, pressing them activates the brain for sending messages from the right brain hemisphere to the left, and an increased flow of electromagnetic energy. It's to be used to help reading. The energy yawn is said to increase circulation to the brain and activates it for increased sensory perception. It's to help reading aloud and creative writing. And hookups connect the electrical circuits of the body and activates the brain for emotional centering. They say it helps students take tests and work at a keyboard.
Yes, Brain Gym relies on a lot on massaging various points on the body, and brain buttons are particularly, what shall we say, amusing. I think what you have to do is press around here somewhere on the side underneath the clavicle, while rubbing the navel with the other essential part of the procedure. And this is apparently supposed to change blood flow into the brain and therefore improve the integration of activity in the brain. Well, you know, a bit like trying to regulate your central heating system by pressing on the wall of your house because the pipes are behind there. I mean, the notion that pressure here is going to alter blood flow to the brain is just so implausible. And then beyond that, the view that somehow minutely changing overall blood flow is going to alter the particular distribution of activity in the brain and therefore improve learning is just nonsense.
Brain Gym is a commercial trademark programme. Many local education authorities pay to train their teachers and for instructors. There are now more than 70 such instructors in the UK. The government says it has no idea how many schools use the system, but it's thought to be thousands. It hasn't assessed how effective the system might be. But Paul Howard-Jones has, and he thinks that Brain Gym doesn't do what it's said to do.
I think it's extremely unlikely that Brain Gym does what it says on the tin, if you like. It's possible that it improves attention. There's some evidence that it improves response times, for example. But in terms of repatterning the brain and balancing left and right hemispheres, there's no convincing scientific evidence for that at all. And in terms of it improving school performance, again, there's no convincing evidence for that.
The science might seem a little odd. Most of the claims are untested, and some of them are simply wrong. But if Brain Gym is helping children learn, then what's wrong with using it in schools? Buffy McClelland is one of the leading advocates of Brain Gym in the UK. She acknowledges that the explanations of how Brain Gym works are pseudoscientific. But the American creators of the system say that the statements in the teacher's manual have scientific merit. But henceforth, they'll be stated as hypotheses rather than scientific fact.
I feel that there is enough evidence that Brain Gym actually gives significant impacts, improvement in reading of around 2 to 3 months of improvement per month of intervention for poor readers. So that even though we don't really understand how it works, I think there is enough need for help with reading in schools that it's worth using the Brain Gym programme.
By dressing up what might be actually very useful little distracting classroom exercises with this dogma, almost cult-like, ritual-like dogma of pseudo-science is a great pity. And the residual misperceptions that will leave young children and teachers with is as damaging, perhaps much more damaging than the consequences of the exercises themselves.
Children, thank you for offering to give your impressions of how you feel Brain Gym helps you.
Well, Brain Gym gets the blood pumping into your brain.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I like energy ones because it helps to get your left and your right brain connected and helps you learn easier.
You believe that, do you?
Say you're doing a test, any kind of test, you just do a little bit of Brain Gym, such as, say you're stuck on a maths test per se, you do a little bit of energy on, you find the answer just like that.
Despite attempts by British Brain Gym enthusiasts to distance themselves from American unscientific explanations, there's evidence that pseudoscience is permeating its way into our school system.
It's time to go in for learning again now. Please put your hands by your side and then into hookups.
A growing number of scientists and education experts believe that until the system's claims can be backed by solid peer-reviewed research, the ideas behind Brain Gym have no place in our schools.
Well, let's see now if we can talk to the brains behind Brain Gym, Paul Dennison, who's in Los Angeles. I'm sorry we couldn't hear you a moment ago, Mr. Dennison. Let's just check we can hear you now. Can you just explain what a brain button is, please?
Yep. We have on our body certain reflex points that help us organize the body and the brain. And holding these points help to activate developmental movements that they're called micro-interventions to help improve the connections in circuitry. And the apparent results are that people get better sense of where they are in space, sense of left and right, and able to move better. We leave the explanations to the experts. We've been explaining these the best we can over the years, and we're open to inquiry and develop the best explanations for them. But the fact they do indeed work.
Well, yes, I mean, you say in your teacher's manual here, when you talk about hookups, that they connect the electrical circuits in the body. What exactly are these electrical circuits, please?
Well, it's my opinion that we are electrical, that we do have circuits and connections. And when we bring our energy to the midline, to the central point, we are breaking out of the reflex to go from one side to the other and bring things back to the center where we can be calm and relaxed.
It is your
focused, and this is.
You say it is your opinion that we are electrical, Mr. Dennison. Are you medically qualified?
No, I'm not medically qualified. I'm an educator. But I study and read, and there are studies to show that we do have electrical. Acupuncture and other procedures are based on the fact that there are electrical circuits in the body, and we are building on the shoulders of these people who have been doing this for thousands of years.
Is the fact that you're not medically qualified explanation enough for statements in this teacher's manual of the kind that processed foods do not contain water, which you know is arrant nonsense?
Yeah. So we're interested in helping children, and these things work, and we explain them the best we can, and we are going to edit the manual and rewrite it so that it's...
But you can see that
really
that is
simply...
Absolutely.
Your help in helping us point these things out.
But you appreciate that is nonsense, isn't it?
The best of my ability to help children and to help teachers have a context for why they are doing the movements.
But if your manual can contain idiotic statements like that, is there any reason to believe anything else in it?
No. I do believe those statements are true, and time will prove that
and
they are.
And you believe processed foods don't contain water, do you?
Instruments to do that.
You believe processed foods don't. You believe processed foods don't contain water?
I had a context for that statement, meaning that pure water is more immediately active and available to the brain, and that I'm not attached to either.
Well,
but that was the best information I had at the time. Huh?
Perhaps you should have said that.
Hmm?
Perhaps you should have said that instead of saying what you did say, which is nonsense.
Yeah, 15 years ago, that was the best information I had, and no one has complained about the teacher's edition until
that processed
this point,
foods don't contain water.
Glad that we can.
Let me ask you, Mr. Dennison. Sorry to cut across you. There's a delay on the satellite. Just let me ask you this: how many schools in Britain are using this program of yours?
The Brain Gym program is embraced and loved in 80 countries around the world, and I have no idea how many schools use it. But children love it because they learn better. Teachers love it because they have kids that are ready, willing, and able to learn and love to be in school. And parents like it. And these are tools that I've developed as a reading specialist over my whole career, because I just love to see a child come to life when he learns.
Mr. Dennison, thank you very much indeed. Okay, good. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty earlier.